All right, let's get started. Everyone? Ready? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Please sign in to your attendance if you can. Questions before we get started? No? Okay, let's do 2 poll questions that hopefully, I hope, should be a refresher. But if it's not a refresher, you'll learn it new now. The purpose of these poll questions is to get you to distinguish between 2 of the future interests we've studied. Please be on time, okay? Thank you. The remainder and the reversion. So this is question number 1 for you. Question number 1 says, Blackacre from O to A for life, then to B and his heirs. What future interest does B have? Okay. A, remainder, or B, reversion? Okay, another 10 seconds or so. Please be here on time, okay? Thanks. No, you're not here. No, you're. I know. Class starts at 2. Okay. All right. All right. Who's next? Okay. What's your answer here?
It's a remainder.
Okay. Why do you think it's remainder?
Because it goes to a third party after the last.
Okay. Very good. That's correct. Oh wow. That's real good. Have you ever had 100 before? I don't think so. That makes me very happy. Okay, you're actually learning. I'm good. Okay, I feel competent. Okay, good. You're right. 100%. Keep it 100, right? The answer is remainder. The answer is remainder. The reason why is you have a life estate, and the future interest goes to a third party, which makes it a remainder. And the trick, which is not always going to work but it's helpful, when you see a comma rather than a period, you know you're getting a remainder. All right, so this next one should be even simpler. All right, I'll give you less time for that, but let's do it nonetheless to get our juices going, right? Blackacre from O to A for life. What future interest does O have? Remainder or reversion? I think almost all of you have put your answers in. I think Blake, I think you're next. All right, Blake, what's your answer here?
It's a reversion.
That's correct. And why? There it is. Wow, 100. Perfect. 77 for what? Perfect. 71. Why is it reversions?
There's no third party involved with
Right.
the life estate.
Right. The definition of reversion is it's a future interest that comes after a life estate, and it goes back to the grantor or the grantor's heirs. Now, I keep saying goes back, right? I don't say reverts. You know why today I don't say reverts? Because the topic we'll be studying in a few minutes, what's called the possibility of reverter, right? Don't say reverts. Just don't say it. Okay? All right. I want to now start a table, which we're going to be focusing on for the next 3 classes. This table is not perfect. And in fact, by next week, you'll realize this table is not very useful. But at least we'll get you through today and maybe Tuesday. Okay? What I want you to think about is present interests. All right? How long do they last? That is what the duration is. What future interest is associated with the present interest? And what are the magic words, right? The words used to describe these. You'll need to be able to more or less do this chart from memory. You can fill it in your notes now. But let's just start with this chart. Okay? So David, let's start with our simplest one, the fee simple. How long, what's the duration for a fee simple estate?
It's permanent.
It's permanent. It's forever. Exactly right. I like forever rather than permanent, but permanent is just as good. I say forever. The fee simple goes on forever, right? There's no stopping point. Now, Stuart, what's the duration of a life estate?
The life of whoever you gave it to.
Yeah, we'll just say the life of A to make it easier, okay? All right. So far, so good. Now, Marissa, what are the words, the magic words, so to speak, that you would put in a conveyance to convey a life estate? What words would you use?
To the heirs.
Be more precise a little bit. You're right, but just what's the phrase we always use?
In his heirs or her heirs.
Good, very good. Yeah. To A and his heirs. And if you want to say her heirs, I don't care. I think that's just good in my mind, but I'll just use whatever the book uses. To A and his heirs, right? When you see the phrase to A and his heirs, you know you can do the fee simple. All right, so Marcos, what is the future interest with a fee simple? It's actually almost a trick question.
The reason that means is you hold the.
There isn't a. So who gets to have Blackacre when A dies? A can't live forever. We're all mortal.
These heirs.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is A's heirs have the future interest, right? But the key point is you decide who your heirs are. And you can decide that in a will, or you can die without a will. But the future interest here belongs to A's heirs. Everyone with me? I think, Julie, see you next? I think you're the... Okay, so let me ask you the next question, please. What are the magic words to convey a life estate? Like, how would you write this out?
From O to A.
Uh-huh.
For life.
Uh-huh. That's it? Okay, we can do that. So to A for life. I'm going to just exclude the from O. She's right, but I'm just to make my table a little bit less bulky. So let's say to A for life. All right, so Louisa, in this case, what is the future interest? With the example Julissa just gave a minute ago.
Reverter.
You're so close. You almost did it.
Remainder? No, reverter.
Which one is it? Who has the future interest to A for life? Who has future interest here?
Not remainder, it was the other one that just slipped my mind.
You got 100%. All of you got it. What's it called?
What was it?
First off, Louisa, who has the future interest? Before we get to what you call it, who has it?
Oh.
Okay, O has it. Okay, so we know that O has the future interest, right? What do we call it?
Reversion?
That's right. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bit more precise. Let's say to O's heirs, right? Because O might die, so let's just simplify it. O's heirs, and they have what's called reversion. Okay, everyone with me? That's exactly what the first poll question was. All right, Giancarlo, is this the only way to convey a life estate? Maybe you can do a little bit differently. What's another way you can convey a life estate? Instead of O getting it, what else might happen? What's another example we've done?
Spell off the remainder.
Give me words. I want words of how you would describe that. Just use A and B, make it easier.
Would be
You're making it way too hard.
where if O gives a life estate to A and
I'm looking for like 5 or 6 words. Think of the poll question we had a few minutes ago.
would not give a remainder.
I'm looking for the words. I know this is a hard question, but give me the words if you want to convey a life estate and the remainder. What words would you use?
To A for life.
Keep going.
Then to B and his heirs.
That's it. Very good. Okay. So we'd write out, sorry, to A for life, then to B and his heirs. Okay? And I'm going to add some punctuation here. On the one Julissa gave a minute ago, I'm going to put a period right there. Everyone see what I just did? Put a period. That's your tell that you're dealing with a remainder. I'm sorry, reversion. See, I did it. That's your tell you're dealing with reversion. But here we have a comma. Right? So Giancarlo, what's the future interest in this first one?
A remainder.
That's correct. Right? And the remainder is to B and his heirs. Called a remainder. Okay? All right. Everyone with me so far? All right. Now, Adam,
Yeah.
I want to be more precise here. How can we describe this remainder with more precision? What kind of remainder is it?
Well, based off of, I guess, what we've done today, if you say it's a terminable.
No, you're going totally wrong direction. I'm asking a very simple question. Determinable has nothing to do with this right now. What happens in this first example when A dies? What does B have? When A dies, what does B then have?
He has the remainder.
No. When does B have the remainder? During what period of time?
He has the remainder during A's life. Oh,
Good.
When A dies.
When A dies.
he has a fee simple.
Exactly. When A dies, everyone get that? B has a fee simple. How do you know that, Adam?
Because then he has the bundles.
How do you know he gets a fee simple upon A's death? What words tell you that?
Because it's B and his heirs.
Exactly, right? B and his heirs, right? So we know when A dies, B has a fee simple. All right, Adam, finish it up. How would we then describe the remainder? It's a remainder blank.
Remainder fee simple.
You're missing one word.
Absolute.
No. You know what?
Two fee simple?
Wrong preposition. It's remainder blank fee simple. What's that word?
Fee simple?
Oh, God, another wrong preposition. Chance? Oh, damn it. In, thank you. My goodness. Yeah, you were so close. I didn't want to. God, how many prepositions are there? In, around, about, upside down, right? Okay, so this first one, if you want to be precise, my friends, we say remainder in fee simple. I know that's a weird, like, what does it mean? In? That's what it is, right? You say remainder in fee simple. And you know it's remainder in fee simple because the word and its heirs are there, right? That tells you that. All right? Everyone get that? Right? So if you want to get a full credit on your exam, don't just say Josh's remainder, you say it's remainder in fee simple. Now, someone asked me this last class. It doesn't have to be remainder in fee simple. You can give a remainder in life estate. I'm not going to write this, it'll confuse you, but I just want to say it out loud. If I said to O for A for life, then to B for life. To B for life. That means B would have a remainder in life estate. You can do that. We'll do that in about a week. I don't want to do it to you now, but you don't always have to have remainder in fee simple. That's why you have to specify what kind of remainder you're talking about, because there are different kinds of remainders. Everyone with me? Okay, I think Natalie, you're next. So help me out here. What kind of reversion does O have in this case? Be more precise.
Reversion and fee.
Exactly. Now this one's harder, Natalie. How'd you know it was reversion fee simple? You don't have the and his heirs language there.
Because it goes back to the grantor.
And what do we presume goes back?
The future.
In fee simple, right? This one's a little bit harder, right? You don't have the and his heirs language to help you out, right? You don't have the and his heirs language to help you out, just as to A for life. But you should know, right? You should know that the fee simple goes back, and it's called reversion in fee simple. Okay. Everyone get me so far, right? Okay. Today in class, we're going to add 3 new rows to this table. Not yet. I'll add it as we move along. But we're going to learn today 3 different types of future interest. I'm sorry, 3 different types of present interests. 3 different types of present interests. The first present interest we'll learn today is what's called the fee simple determinable. Okay? The fee simple determinable. Please don't write FSD in your notes. You're going to want to do it, don't do it. Just please spell it out because you're going to confuse yourself with the acronym. So just write a fee simple determinable. Okay? The next one we're going to learn a little bit later in class is the fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. A fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Please don't write FSSC. Oh God, I can't even do it. FSSCS. You're going to want to do it. You're going to screw it up. You're going to mess up because the S's and the C's. Just write it out. Fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Just trust me on this one. And the third one we'll be studying today, the new one, is what's called a fee simple subject to executory interest, and you might also see executory limitation. It's the same thing. You'll see it different ways in different sources, so I want you to at least know the phrasing, but it's a fee simple subject to an executory limitation or executory interest. It's the same thing. Okay. We're going to do this a little bit later, but I want you to at least have your notes roughly in the right shape. Okay, any questions so far? We'll fill this table in, I promise. Okay. Josh, what about leaseholds? That does not belong in this chart. Okay? So someone's going to ask that, right? What about leaseholds, right? I'm not going to put this in this chart because leaseholds are really easy. The reason why I'm not putting a leasehold on the chart is the future interest is fairly obvious, right? When you have a lease, it's usually for some fixed period of time, right? And you know that after your lease is up, it goes to the landlord. That's it. That's actually easy. So you don't have to worry about all these magic words, right? Leaseholds are very simple, and I'm not going to say much more about it than that. We will come back to leases in Chapter 6. I'm actually done with leases. All I'm going to say about it, right? Leases are easy because you know at the end of the lease it goes to the landlord, right? There's no funky stuff where like it goes here, it goes there in life. No, it's you can have a lease maybe for a year or 2 years. Maybe you can have a month to month, or maybe the landlord can kick you out whenever he wants, right? But when you're done living there, it goes to the landlord. Simple. So I know they put leaseholds in this chapter. I almost wish they didn't, but they're there. But I'm not going to put it on this chart. Okay? Any questions on leases? We'll do leases later. They're complicated, but they don't involve future interest in a complicated way. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So I need to give you some vocabulary, and the vocabulary, unfortunately, is a little bit complicated. The first vocabulary that I want to explain is the word defeasible estate. Defeasible estate. The word defeasible is a word that we don't use much in common discussion, but has a legal meaning. Defeasible means to cut short, right? The word defeasible means to cut short. A life estate, we say, lasts forever. Right? A life estate, we say, fee simple lasts forever. A life estate ends at a person's death, right? That's exactly when it ends. We know when it ends. A fee simple and a life estate are not defeasible. They either last forever or they cut short at a person's death, right? A defeasible state terminates at some point prior to death, right? A defeasible state cuts short at some point before death. And it usually cuts short when a condition happens. When a condition happens. Okay? right? The purpose of a defeasible estate is to control land in the future. That if something happens in the future, then the ownership of the land changes, right? You're cutting short someone's interest. And that's the purpose of defeasible estate. Everyone with me? Okay. There are three kinds of defeasible estates that you'll need to know. And I put them up here. There's the fee simple determinable. There is the fee simple subject to condition subsequent. And there's the fee simple subject to executory limitation or executory interest. I'll use both phrases back and forth so you get comfortable with it. My friends, the lines between these are often very subtle. And in some cases, I think you can make reasonable arguments on both sides. Right? Often the difference between a fee simple determinable and a fee simple subject condition subsequent is how you read a word in a deed. And the Mahrenholz case, I think, illustrates that. Right? Even courts, they look at documents drawn by non-lawyers and they don't know what to make of it. Now, why does it matter? Okay. The modern approach, the modern law, is that none of these distinctions matter. Right? The modern approach is all these future interests, all these present interests are treated the same way. But at common law, there are different rules for each of them. At common law, each of these three estates has different rules associated with them. And so this is how you screw up your exam. If you identify the wrong present interest, you're going to apply the wrong rule. And you'll get the future interest wrong also. It's one of these cascading errors, right? If you get the first error wrong, everything just flows from it. So it's very important to do your best to associate the right present interest with the right rule. If you mess it up, you're in trouble. All right. Everyone with me? Oh, your chance.
These are common law. They're not modern law. They're not still used.
We'll get to this a little bit later, but under the modern law, they've all been merged, right? There's just one set of rules for all three of them, right? You don't have different rules for these different kinds of interests. I'll get to a little bit later, but just what I want to focus on is you need to know the common law rule. Texas at least treats them differently, and most states do as well. So you have to know the rules. Okay. Okay. Let's start with the, I think the most common of all of them, which is the first one, which is fee simple determinable. And I just want to focus on the word, right? Determinable, right? What does that word determinable mean? Think of like determine, right? Where you determine at some point in the future what is the state of matters, right? You're not deciding now, you're determining in the future, right? The fate is not settled, you can determine it later. That's how easy you remember the word determinable, right? Critically, a fee simple determinable is like a fee simple, but with a condition attached to it, right? Okay. What is the defining feature of a fee simple determinable? That when some event happens, when something happens in the future, the present estate is terminated automatically. Let me say it again. The defining feature of the fee simple determinable is that when some event happens in the future, whatever it is, the present estate is cut short immediately. It's a violent remedy. You can be living on Blackacre for year after year, and then something changes, and like that, you're out. You don't own Blackacre anymore. It goes to someone else. Okay? Let me give you an example. I'm going to keep using this chart, right? Okay, so let's try this example, right? From O to the school, so long as the school, So long as a Blackacre is used for school purposes, which is more or less one of the examples they gave you in the book, right? From O to the school, so long as Blackacre is used for school purposes. Everyone with me? Okay. The present interest here belongs to the school, right? The school has what we call a fee simple determinable. And if Blackacre is used for school purposes indefinitely, there's no problem, right? If Blackacre is used for school purposes indefinitely, there's no problem. The school keeps Blackacre. There's no problem. Okay. But Lexi, what happens if the school stops using Blackacre for school purposes? What happens at that moment?
Does it go back to the guarantor?
Yes. Who's the grantor here?
Oh.
That's right. As soon as Blackacre is, say, converted to apartments or something, right? The school's present interest is cut short. We say it determines. Really, the word determines means cut short, right? The second Blackacre is used for residential, whatever, the school present interest cut short. Immediately. Nothing has to be done. It's automatic. Right? The defining feature of the fee simple determinable is it's automatic. The next one we're going to do is not automatic. The fee simple subject to condition subsequent is not automatic, but we're just focusing on this one now. It's cut short automatically. And Lexi said correctly, the future interest belongs to O, right? The grantor. The future interest belongs to O, the grantor, right? It goes back to O. Or O's heirs, right? It can be either one. Okay. Now, what do we call this future interest? It's not a remainder. Why is it not a remainder? It doesn't follow life estate. It's not a reversion. How do we know it's not a reversion? It doesn't follow life estate, right? It's something else. O has what's called a possibility of reverter. A possibility of reverter. Now I want you just to look at this, right? Look at your future interest. You have remainder, reversion, and possibility of reverter. Do you think those are easy to mix up? Oh yeah. I will probably mix up today, and I'll correct myself immediately, but I will probably I think I already did actually, right? You have to memorize these. They're so similar, right? Wouldn't a rational system not make all three of them begin with RE? Wouldn't that be really nice? Wouldn't that just be like, really helpful for law students around the country? But that's not what we have here. So again, you have remainder, reversion, and possibility of reverter, which is why don't say reverts back, because you're going to screw it up somewhere, right? Someone will say in the exam, a possibility of reversion. Today, someone will say that. It's wrong. There's no thing, but this with big stars in your notes. There's no possibility of reversion. That's not a thing. That doesn't exist. But you're going to want to say it because you're going to just say, oh yeah, possibility of reversion, right? It sounds right. It's possibility of reverter, right? And the key word here is actually not even reverter. It's possibility, right? Why is possibility the key word? Because it may happen or it may not happen. What's the deciding factor? Does the school screw up? Does the school convert it to residential purposes? If they do, the fee determines, right? The fee cuts short, the school loses it, and it goes to O. At that point, Madison, let's just say the school does turn the Blackacre into a residential property. What interest does O have then? If the school screws up? He would have a present interest. How would you describe it?
Um,
What does O get back after the snap? Exactly. So what would we call this possibly reverter? Let's just be precise here.
possibility of reverter and
That's it. You got it. I didn't have to do 5 people again, right? A possibly reverter. They only did that one once, right? A possibly reverter for O in fee simple. I know that's a mouthful, right? Possibility possibly reverter in fee simple, right? And again, just I want you to just think about this for a second. The present interest is a school has a fee simple determinable, and the future interest is O. It's a possibility of reverter in fee simple. It's a mouthful, right? There's a lot of pieces you have to keep in mind. Okay? Yes, Blake.
Can O make the possibility of reverter not lie to the school and do a from O to school until my son achieves a bachelor's degree or something like that?
Yes, you can do that. And those are unfair, but you can do those, right? Because then the school might kill the son so he doesn't get the bachelor's degree. I mean, this is, I'm not making this up, but like when during the medieval times, right, during feudal times, if you had these sorts of conditions, things would happen, I give you the land until my son comes back from war. Well, the son may not come back, right? Because there's a lot of money at stake. So your example is kind of funny, but when you make it tied to someone else's conduct, people have a habit of dying with these sorts of things. A lot of money at stake, right? Blackacre is expensive. But I want to just focus one more time, right? O has possibly reverter and fee simple. Everyone with me on that much, okay? Now, what is the duration of a fee simple determinable? I'm going to write on the board so long as a condition is satisfied, right? So long as a condition is satisfied. That's not a very satisfying answer, I know. But the key phrase there is so long as, right? So long as. There are different words used for a fee simple determinable, right? And they're all words that describe conditions or durations. So I'm going to just put a couple of them on here. So long as, while, during, until. Okay? When you see these words, durational words, right? So long as, while, during, until, that's your clue that you're dealing with a fee simple determinable. Let me say that again. How do you know if you're dealing with a fee simple determinable? You have to look at what words are being used. You have to memorize this. I'm sorry, there's no way around it. So long as, during, while, until, these sorts of words, you're going to have to understand that that means fee simple determinable. Now someone's going to say, Josh, what if I use some other word that's not on that list? That's what the Mahrenholz case is about. They didn't use the magic words, they used other words. And even the courts can't figure out what the hell they're dealing with. So at least, for your sake, for now at least, you're going to use these 4 or 5 words. But later it can get messy. And it can get messy, it will get messy. Okay, have with me on the fee simple determinable. Okay. Right? And again, the important point is, with the fee simple determinable, it cuts short automatically. There's no steps that has to be taken. With the next one, the fee simple subject to condition subsequent, it is not automatic. It's not automatic, right? And I'll just write this here. The fee simple determinable is automatic. And the fee simple subject condition subsequent is not automatic. Okay. Why? Why is that important? When you have an estate that cuts short automatically, nothing has to be done. But when it's not automatic, stuff has to be done. And if that stuff is not done correctly, the school keeps Blackacre. Okay? So let me give you words to describe a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. I think Heather used but if. Was that yours last class, I think?
It was.
And I was like, here it is. This is it, right? Okay. So from O to school, but if Blackacre is used for residential purposes. Okay? Right? From O to school, but if Blackacre is used for residential purposes, we say O has a right to re-enter. Okay? Everyone with me? It's a little bit more complicated, right? And I want you just to contrast these two. Okay? First one is actually a little bit easier. From O to school, so long as Blackacre is used for school purposes. Okay? That's actually, I think, pretty easy to understand. This one, there's more stuff going on. From O to school, okay, so far so good. But if Blackacre is used for residential purposes, O has a right to re-enter. Now, what's obviously different about this one and this one? With the fee simple determinable, it doesn't say what happens if the condition's violated. Right? Why? It's automatic. Right? The second the school is not used for school purposes, O gets it. Right? O doesn't have to do anything. But with the fee simple subject to condition subsequent, O's got stuff to do. Right? O has what's called a right to re-enter. Right? Or what's also called a right of re-entry. It's the same thing. Right? A right to re-enter, a right of re-entry. It's a right that you have to exercise. What does that mean? O has to go to court and convince the court that, number one, the condition's been violated, and then he gets to enter. Right? There's a legal proceeding that has to be done. Maybe it's not clear. Maybe the school still is being used as a school. Right? Who knows? But the important point is it's not automatic. That O has a right of re-entry. Okay? There's a second big difference. With the first chart, we use words of duration, so long as, while, during, until. These measure time. Okay? Here we have different language. We have language that says, but if. Okay? But if. Okay? But if is what we call conditional language. Conditional language. You remember in high school math, if P then Q? You remember that? Very blacked it out, right? These are conditions. Like if this happens, then that happens, right? Or not P, then not Q. Remember the tables, the truth tables, right? With a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, we're looking for conditional language. So for example, but if, provided, however, on the condition that, right? These are the sorts of words that you need to know, right? But if, provided, however, on the condition that. When you see these words, you realize you're not dealing with the fee simple determinable. You realize that you're dealing with the fee simple subject to condition subsequent. Okay. Everyone with me so far? All right. Now, I left one of those boxes blank. Let's fill it in now. Right? What do you call O's future interest here? Right? What do you call the future interest that O has? There's a couple names for them. Right of entry. It's sometimes called a right of re-entry. It's also called a power of termination. There's at least 3 names that I can think of that you might call this. I will usually just say right of entry or right of reentry. I don't usually call it power of termination, but you'll see that somewhere, so I want you to at least have that. Right? Why power of termination? Because you have the power to terminate it, but it's not automatically. You have to exercise that option in court. Right? Again, with the fee simple determinable, it's automatic. Snap, right? Done. With the fee simple subject condition subsequent, you have to go to court. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ah.
So do you just say like right of entry, or do you say O has a right of entry and fee?
Oh, that was my next question. I was going to get there, right?
Okay, sorry.
Sarah, how would we describe O's interest? No, you're fine. You're thinking obviously where I'm going, right? That's how I structure the class, right? So Sarah, just finish it off, right? How would we describe O's future interest in this case, at least? He has a right of entry, blank. That's exactly right. So you would say O has a right of entry in fee simple, or right of reentry, or power of termination. I don't use power of termination. I think it's too many. It's a little too cumbersome. I prefer right of entry, but it's there. You might see it in some other books or whatever. So at least you know it. All right. So again, I want to just contrast fee simple determinable and fee simple subject condition subsequent. Let's just contrast these two. The fee simple determinable uses durational words, while, during, until. The fee simple subject condition subsequent uses, conditional words, but, if, provided, however, on the condition that, etc. Okay. The fee simple determinable is automatic. It cuts short once a condition is violated. You don't have to exercise any power. The fee simple subject condition subsequent, it's not automatic. You have to go to court and actually petition for it, right? Okay. The future interests have different labels. Here, the future interest is called the possibly reverter. Possibility of reverter, please, 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 not possibly reversion. Don't say it. There's no possibility of reversion. You'll say it. I was checking my notes and I wrote that in one place. I was mad at myself. It's so easy to do. Just be very careful. Here, with the fee simple subject condition subsequent, you have right of entry, or right of reentry, or power of termination. Although I will almost always say right of entry because I think it's the easiest one. Okay. And another key distinction. Here, it doesn't spell out what happens to O because it's automatic. You don't have to spell out what happens to O. But with this one, you have to spell out O has right of entry or right of reentry. Right? You have to spell it out. Okay. Everyone with me so far? I know I'm lecturing a lot, but this, trust me, it's easier this way. I've tried it both ways. This is easier. We have one more row in our table. Okay? We have one more row in our table. Now, when we did life estates, right, we had two different types of future interests. We had one future interest where O has the future interest, the grantor. We call that reversion. Okay? And then we had another type of future interest after life estate where it goes to a third party, B. We call that remainder. All right? The first two determinable estates we've done, the future interest stays with O, the grantor. Right? But if, with this last one, the future interest goes to a third party. Okay? The defining feature of the fee simple subject to the executory interest is that the future interest goes to a third party. Okay? Now, when you see the word executory interest, I want you to think of execution. Right? What's actually happening is that a third party is executing the present interest, is cutting it short. And that's actually what the word means, right? To execute, to cut short, to kill. Right? A third party, not O or A, but B. B is cutting short some present interest. Everyone with me? All right. Let me give you an example for your notes. Okay, so let's try this one. Let's try this. From O to school, but if Blackacre is used for residential purposes, to B. Right? From O to school, but if Blackacre is used for residential purposes, to B. Right? What does that mean? If the school is used for residential purposes, B cuts short the school's present interest. B cuts short, B executes, we would say, the present interest. Okay, you're with me. So the present interest here is the school has a fee simple that's subject to an executory interest. Right? The school has a fee simple subject to an executory interest. Okay? Who has the executory interest? B. Oh, this one actually makes sense. This is the easiest of all three. A has a fee simple subject to an executory interest. Who has an executory interest? B. B has an executory interest. And what that means is B is just waiting around, hoping A screws up, right? Hoping the school screws up. And once the school screws up, B is like, aha, it's mine. I cut you short. I win. And I'll tell you something. This one, automatic. The fee simple subject to executory interest is automatic. In that regard, it resembles a fee simple determinable. It's automatic. Okay? So we say B in this example, B has an executory interest. Everyone with me? Let's try another example. From O to school, so long as Blackacre is used for residential purposes, or sorry, for school purposes, then to B. See what I did there, right? With a fee simple subject and executory interest, you can use either types of words. You can use durational words, or it can use conditional words. You can do both. But the defining feature of what makes this a fee simple subject and executory interest is what happens. A third party executes. A third party cuts short the present interest. That's a defining feature. So in this case, B also has an executory interest. You might write a little bit different, but B has the exact same interest. B has an executory interest. And I'll get to the other part in a minute, I promise. B has an executory interest. Okay? B has an executory interest. All right? And I'll just finish it up. Oh God, I can't read that. Was that Doug?
Yeah, it's done.
Oh boy, that's faint. Okay. Doug, fill in the blank. B as an executor interest, blank. That's right. Yeah, just finish it up. Good. In fee simple. That's correct. B as an executor interest in fee simple. Right? That's correct. So in one regard, the fee simple subject and executor interest is actually the easiest of them, because you don't really need to know the words. The words don't really matter, right? What matters is the third party is cutting short the present interest, right? That is what is the tell. That's what indicates that you're dealing with a fee simple subject and executor limitation. All right. The second criteria is that's automatic. It cuts short right away. There's no right of entry that's required. There's no termination power required. It happens right away. Yes, Wise?
Do the executory interest and the possibility of reversion always go with the present interest?
Yes. Yeah, let me make that point very clear. In property law, we have pairs, right? We have pairs. They pair together. If you know that your present interest is a fee simple determinable, then you know the future interest is a possibility of reverter. If you know that your present interest is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, you know that the future interest is a right of entry. And if you know that your present interest is a fee simple subject to an executor limitation, you know your future interest is an executor limitation, right? You have to memorize the pairs. And I'll just build on Elias's question a little bit more deeply. Sometimes it's flipped. Sometimes you might know that there's an executory interest. You have to work backwards and know that the present interest is a fee simple subject executory interest. Or maybe I'll tell you the future interest is a right of entry. You have to work backwards and know that means the present interest is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. You have to be fluent backwards and forwards, which is why I like this table. Just go back, forward. And if I give you one column, you should be able to fill in the blanks, right? I mean, like Sudoku, right? If you fill in one row, you can get the rest of them, right? You need to be able to know back or forward. Like I can tell you so long as, and you fill in the rest of the row by yourself. Eventually, this entire table should be committed to memory. I mean, you can have it on the exam, but it's not going to help you. Because if you can't go back and forth in your head, your notes aren't going to be helpful for you. Dana?
Okay, so if the condition is met for either any of them, the determinable condition subsequent or executory, the second person in the last case B owns fee simple.
Right.
In other words, he has the full bundle of six, right?
And here, yeah, B has a full bundle of 6. That's right.
And he can assign it to his heirs, for example.
Okay, so we're going to do about assigning future interest in mid. I'm not there yet. I didn't do that yet. That's actually the subject of the case, right? Can you assign a future interest? I'm just going to dodge your question. If I don't answer, come back to me later, okay? But I want to just everyone get this much, okay? All right. We'll come back to this table next class and add more, right? It gets worse, right? What was that? I heard like a meep.
I laughed.
You laughed. Because let me tell you, there are different types of remainders. There are different types of interest. This table gets a little bit more unwieldy. By next week, this table will be like, oh, whatever. In fact, in your book, there's something like this table, and I'm telling you, don't even look at it. It's going to like scare you, right? It's at the end of the chapter. Just don't even look at it. I don't think I put it in your pages to read. If I did, I apologize. But Doug, yeah.
So for the fee simple subject condition subsequent,
Yeah.
you said it's conditional language.
Like, but if on the condition that provided that, yeah.
So then would it also be like a limitation language?
Oh
Like-
God, don't say limitation because that's something else. Just use the words I'm using. Don't say, can I also say, right? Don't try to, and I don't want that, this will sound mean, but don't take it this way. Don't try to get creative, right? Don't try and think of different ways of learning this because you'll screw up, right? I've seen it happen before. Someone says, there's some other way of thinking about this, and they go down a rabbit hole, right? Just stick with what I'm telling you. I don't like that sort of like paternalistic approach, but on this topic, unfortunately, if you don't stick with the vocabulary I'm giving you, you'll lose it. Right. Other topics you can think of alternate ways of understanding it, but this topic you're in a lane and you got to stay in the lane. Don't get off your lane, as they say. Chance.
Do we ever have to worry about using a question using a duration word, but they intend a?
Yes, that's the Mahrenholz case, right, where it's not clear what they intended.
Well, I guess like from a testing standpoint. Like,
I can do that. Right. And there are going to be some questions we're going to have to make a judgment call of which one it is, and there might be a better answer, might be a worse answer. Yeah.
then why? You use so long, then what's the point of having the words from the get-go?
The answer to Chance's question is that people who write these documents aren't always lawyers, right? And laymen write instruments thinking they're doing A and they're actually doing B. All right. Everyone with me? I know, it takes an hour to do this chart. I mean, we're at 3 o'clock, right? That's how long it takes. Is that a hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So on the last box, be simple subject executory.
Hmm?
So, I don't know, I get this hypo, it says from O to A in his heirs, but if A dies for B, then B in his heirs. So A's heirs are just kind of screwed out if A dies for B.
Did you make that hypo up?
It was in my notes.
Okay, so say it again. If it's in the book, I'd be happy to do it. Just start making it up. The tricky.
From O to A and his heirs, but if A dies before B, comma, then to B and his heirs.
Yes. Yeah. We'll do an example like that a little bit later. I don't want to do it quite yet. But the purpose of executory interest is to screw the present estate holder, right? That if something happens in the present moment, the present estate gets cut short and A gets screwed. That's right. Yeah, they're unfair, the executory interest, which is why no one uses them anymore, right? These aren't used very often because they're very unfair. People may not even know about these conditions, and they just build apartments, have a school, and they lose it. Okay, questions? Yeah, Chance.
Can you say all ownership in Texas is fee simple subject to condition, and the condition is you pay your taxes?
Why would you do that?
Just to make sure.
I don't know. No, I don't know. No, I don't know. I mean, so let's move on. I'm sorry. It's just I can answer that, but it'll take too long. Okay. Next topic. All right. I'm going to cut it short, as they say. I'm going to execute it. Right. When you have a future interest, what can you do with it? Right. If you have, let's say, a possibility of reverter, let's say you have a right of entry, what can you do with it? The rules are different for common law and modern, right? At common law, you could inherit one of these things, right? You can inherit one of these things, but you could not transfer them inter vivos. Right? That is, if it was testamentary, right, upon your death, you could inherit a possible reverter. You could inherit a right of entry. But you could not convey one of these future interests during life. The modern approach is that you can sell them during life. Indeed, in Texas, as far as I can tell, I think you can sell them inter vivos. And it's not exactly clear, but I think you can. This doesn't happen very often, right? But I think as far as my research shows you can. Okay? But alas, you need to know the common law rules. And I'm telling you, I will almost always test you in the common law rules because modern stuff is just fake, right? It's just, whatever, do whatever you want, right? I actually like property 1 better than 2 because 2 is all modern stuff, and 2 is like do whatever the hell you want if it's fair. 1, there's actually rules to learn. So I prefer the common law approach. So at common law, it was prohibited to transfer inter vivos these sorts of interests. Okay. Questions on that? I think, Danny, you asked me that question a couple minutes ago. I think you were.
Almost, but not quite.
So close.
If the condition is met, then we have fee simple, then
Yes. Okay. So once let's just say there's a fee simple determinable. Once the condition occurs, and O has fee simple, he can do whatever he wants with it, right? Once you have a fee simple, you have the entire bundle of 6. You can transfer it. But the question is, if you're sitting there waiting for something to happen, can you transfer it inter vivos? And the answer is, at common law, you could not. You could not convey the possibility of reverter, or you cannot convey the fee simple determinable. Okay. After class today, I want you to at least try to memorize 3 things, and that's all I want you to memorize. A fee simple determinable matches up with a possible reverter. A fee simple determinable matches up with a possible reverter. That's number 1. Number 2, the fee simple subject to condition subsequent matches with the right of entry. The fee simple subject to condition subsequent matches with the right of entry. These are tongue twisters also. And the third thing I want you all to memorize is that a fee simple subject to an executory interest matches with an executory interest. The fee simple subject to an executory interest matches with an executory interest. The last one's the easiest one because the future interest is in the name, right? That's actually the easiest one to remember. The other 2, they're not so simple. Okay, if you memorize those 3 things, those 3 what we call pairings, you'll be in good shape. We have more pairings next week, right? There are other kinds of pairings you'll have to remember, but these 3 pairings will get you going. Okay, I want to do the case in a minute. Any questions on this table so far? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, either one. Yeah.
Can you repeat those 3 again?
Like, fine.
Sorry, I don't type that fast.
That's okay. The fee simple determinable matches with the possibility of reverter. The fee simple subject to condition subsequent matches with the right of entry. And the fee simple subject to an executory interest matches with the executory interest. Everyone got that?
Thank you.
Yeah. And Nancy?
So when you said fee subject to condition subsequent.
Say it again. I know they're tricky. They're hard to say. They're mouthfuls.
Fee simple subject to condition subsequent. You said matches with right of entry. Are we wrong if we write with the first part right of entry and fee simple?
That's correct.
That's
yeah.
the same.
But it's not always going to be a fee simple. You could have a right of entry in life estate. In this case, it's a fee simple. That's not always the case.
Oh, so just remember right of entry.
Yeah. In this example I gave you, it is a fee simple, but you could have a right of entry in life estate. That's permissible. I mean, I don't want to scare you, but you can have a right of entry and executory interest. Just wait for that, right? You can stack them. That the future interest is subject to someone else's. In other words, from O to the school, O has it, but then he might lose it later. You can do these any which ways. Don't. I will. I will. We'll get to it, but it's not always going to be in fee simple. In this case, it is, but it will not always be in fee simple.
Okay.
All right, other questions on this table? Just get those 3 pairings in your head, and you'll be in better shape for next class. All right, Mandy, I think you're next. Mandy, you want to walk me through the facts in our, it's only one case today. Mahrenholz versus County Board of School Trustees, Illinois, 1981. You want to just walk me, the facts here are a little bit tricky, but we'll do our best.
So, the Huttons had 40 acres
Uh-huh.
of land, and they gave half to, the trustees of school district number.
They have half of it?
Sorry, 1.5.
1.5 acres. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
To use as a school.
Good.
And then the other 30 acres.
Let's just pause for a second. What was the language, Mandy, that they used in the deed to convey it to the school district?
This land to be used for school purpose only, otherwise to revert to grandparents.
Okay, so just stop there for a minute, right? Thank you, Mandy. This land to be used for school purposes only, otherwise to revert to grantors herein, and the grantors were the Huttons. What is this? Why is this language so confusing to the court after I just spent an hour telling you all these things, right? Why is this language so difficult for the court?
You're struggling between the line between feasible determinable
Yes.
and fee simple subject to subsequent conditions.
Oh, so close. Say it again. Fee simple subject to.
Condition subsequent.
Yes, you flipped it.
Sorry.
See what he did? I'm not mad at you. You actually got most of it right. The court struggles here. Is this a fee simple determinable? Or is this a fee simple subject to condition subsequent? Moy says, why does it matter which one you pick? Why is that distinction really important?
The timing is important.
Yeah. What's the big distinction between the two of them?
Automatic and non-automatic.
That's it. You got it right. The fee simple determinable is automatic. And we'll get to the transactions in later. It's actually more complicated than it needs to be, right? There are a lot of people involved. But if it's automatic, one party wins. If it's not automatic, the other party wins. So the two parties in this case are fighting over whether it's a fee simple determinable, which means automatic, or whether it's a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, which is not automatic. You have to exercise your right of entry. Everyone with me? Okay. Now, John, let's just look at this language, right? It says, this land to be used for school purposes only, otherwise to revert to grantors herein. So just give me your thoughts about maybe how you would read this if you were one of the judges in this case.
So, specifically the word school purposes only.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so what does that tell you only?
So whatever they're doing on the land has to be purely related to
Good. Okay.
things that the school is doing.
Okay, what other language there might be relevant for your analysis?
Otherwise to revert.
Yeah. What does the word revert, maybe suggest?
That it would go back to the Huttons, I guess.
Right, but the word revert, what does that sound like? What's that thing I talked about a few minutes ago? I told you not to use the word revert. They used it. What does revert sound like?
Reversion?
Oh, you did what I told you not to do.
Yeah.
What does, now, John, what does the word revert sound like that we've just talked about today? Only a couple things. I gave you 3 things to memorize. Alexis? That's right. A possible reverter. And Alexis, what present interest does a possible reverter match up with? Yes. And now you can see why you have to go back and forward, right? Sometimes you might know what the future interest is, and that tells you what the present interest is. You see what I'm saying, right? So maybe you look at it and say, it reverts. Revert. That sounds like possibility of reverter. And if the future interest is a possible reverter, the present interest is exactly, feasible determinable. And if it's a fee simple determinable present interest, you have an automatic execution. Right? Now, do I think that the Huttons knew what the hell a possible reverter was? Of course not. Right? They had no idea. I think it's just a complete coincidence that they use this word. But it's why I'm telling you, don't use the word reverts, because it's going to screw you up. All right? So I teach this case, I think, every year. And I don't know what the hell they intended, right? It's not clear to me if they had any idea what they were doing, right? It's not clear if they had any idea what they're doing. I think I can be persuaded either way on this question. If I gave this an exam, I think you can make the argument either way, right? You could say, well, first, the word only. I think John said only, right? The word only sounds kind of conditional, right? If it's only used for this purpose, then it stays with the school. Otherwise, it goes to B, right? I'm sorry, it goes to the grantors. I can also be persuaded that the word used is durational. So long as this is being used for school purposes, it stays with the school. Otherwise, it goes to the grantors. I can be persuaded either way. I don't think that this is a case where it's really clear which side's right. I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. But I want you to understand why each side argue what they did, right? So let's just walk through the chronology. That's a Chase, right? Okay, Chase. Let's just walk through the sequence of events, right? So in March of 41, the Huttons give this deed to the school district, right? And what happens next after that in July of 41? By the way, this is like a few months for Pearl Harbor. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, so this is like crazy time. But what happens next?
They conveyed the land to
Jack Main, very good.
and the land surrounding the school was like reverted to Jackman.
Good.
But the school continued to use that 1.5.
Let me just pause you. What else did the Huttons give to Jackman? They gave him the 38.5 acres around the property. What else did they give to Jackman? This is an important point.
The reversionary interest.
Ah. So the Huttons said that they want to give their reversionary interest to Jackman. Now, we all agree that the deed is fine. It says grantors, right? There's no question that they can keep the reversionary interest for themselves. That's not a problem, right? But then they tried to sell it, right? Inter vivos. And Elias, at common law, could the Huttons convey a reversionary interest inter vivos at common law? Why not?
Because the only way they could do it is upon
Just say, you're right. What's the only way to get rid of a reversionary interest at common law? Death. You have to inherit it. Exactly. Exactly right. So the Huttons said, we're selling this reversionary interest. Now here comes the funky part. The court basically said that wasn't valid. It wasn't valid. So Elias, who kept the reversionary interest? Well, the Huttons, yeah. You're right, yeah. But you eventually became Harry. Harry's still, he's still young in there, but eventually, right? This is a weird thing in property. I can convey you something, and we all think we're happy and good, right? Then the court says, no, 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 you can't convey that. And the court basically wipes out the transaction. It's as if it never happened. It's as if it never happened. So we basically pretend that this deed is still in effect, that the future interest belongs to the grantors. Everyone with me, right? The future interest belongs to the grantors. They retained it. Okay? So then we learn that Hutton dies in 1951. And then 1959, Jackman sells the 38 acres and the reversionary interest to Mahrenholz. Right? He sells both of them. Ryan, could Jackman have sold the reversionary interest to Mahrenholz?
No,
Why not?
because one is not in common law. One could inherit the right.
Did Jackman even have it to sell?
No.
No, he didn't. It wasn't his. Right? In other words, Jackman said, I'm selling you something that he didn't have. And you should all know you can't sell something you don't have. Right? So that transaction was null and void. In other words, the future interest remained with the Huttons, the grantors. Right? At that point, I think the wife was still alive, but then she died about 10 years later. And then Harry, the son, the heir, inherits this future interest. Right? The son inherits the future interest. Okay? The son inherits it. Everyone with me? Okay. So at this point, the son has the future interest, whether it's a possibly reverter or right of entry. We don't know quite yet. The school continues to use the property for school purposes till 73. And at some point, they decide to use the property for storage. For storage purposes. Okay. Genevieve, let me ask you a question. The school is now being used for storage. If you have a fee simple determinable, what happens the minute the school is used for storage?
It automatically goes back to the grantor.
Who is?
Who is the Huttons?
Yeah, Harry Hutton, exactly right. If the school becomes a storage facility and there's a fee simple determinable, you automatically go back to the Huttons, Harry. Nothing has to be done. And he has fee simple, right? So if there's a fee simple determinable and the school is used for school, storage, whatever, Hutton gets a fee simple on Blackacre. He owns it outright. Everyone with me? So Caitlin, let's consider the opposite option, right? What if we're dealing with a fee simple subject to condition subsequent? What happens if the school stops using its school purposes? He has a right of entry, and he has to do what? He has to go to court. That's right. Harry would have to go to court. And Caitlin, what happens if Harry fails to go to court? Who maintains Blackacre? Yes, exactly right. If Harry chooses not to go to court, Harry still has his future interest. It's sort of floating around. And the school retains their fee simple subject to the condition subsequent. And indeed, we'll do this a little bit later, there's a statute limitation. If Harry fails to bring the claim within the 10-year period, he loses, right? If Harry fails to exercise his option within a 10-year limit, he loses his future interest, and the school has now fee simple. That didn't happen here, but it could have. Okay? So you see the difference if it's fee simple determinable or a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, the case turns completely differently. Marissa, let me ask you a question. Did Harry ever go to court to exercise his right of entry?
No.
He didn't. What did Harry do? Harry seems like a conflicted guy, right? He's all over the place, right? What did Harry do in May of 77?
Looks like he released any possibility of reverter or right of entry.
Well, in May of 77, what did he do? There was May and September. I want to do May first.
He conveyed to the plaintiff all of his interests in land.
Okay. Okay, so let me just be very, very careful here. In May of 77, Hutton gave to Mahrenholz his entire interest in the Hutton. In subject condition subsequent. And his future interest was a right of entry. Can he convey that? Can he convey a right of entry? Why not?
Does it sound right?
No. Alexa, could he convey his right of entry?
No.
Why not?
Because you can only get it through inheritance.
That's right. At common law, you could not convey a right of entry. Okay? At common law, you cannot convey a right of entry. So then Alexa, finish it up. If Harry had tried to sell it to the Mahrenholz as a right of entry, was it a valid transaction? Nothing happened, right? You pretend nothing happens. All right, so Samantha, next question for you, please. If there was a fee simple determinable and the school is being used for storage, what was Harry's interest at that point? Fee simple. It cuts it short automatically. Can you convey a fee simple? Of course, right? So the key question here is, what did Harry convey in May of 77 to Mahrenholz? Option 1. He conveyed a right of entry to Mahrenholz. Worthless, has no value. You pretend it doesn't exist. Option 2, he conveyed a fee simple. Yeah, you can do that. Right? You can convey a fee simple. That's no problem. Okay, then fast forward to September. Harry, this guy's confused, right? What does he do, Megan, in September of 77? He does something weird. Really screws things up for everyone. In favor of the who? Who's the defendant here? Yeah, the school district, right? He basically says, I am giving all my interests to the school now. Dude, you just sold your stuff to the Mahrenholz a few months earlier. What are you doing, right? He's very conflicted, right? So the bottom line here, I actually don't want to go through the entire case because the case ends in this very unsatisfying note, right? It's not even clear what the holding of this case is, and you probably were confused, right? I'll tell you what the holding is, but I'm not going to go through it because this case is very, very badly written, right? I think what the court basically holds is that this language is best read as a fee simple determinable, right? Right, and this is not clear in the opinion, but I think that the best way of reading this case is that this language creates a fee simple determinable. And if there's a fee simple determinable, right, the future interest is a possibility reverter, right? That is, Harry had a possibility reverter. And as soon as the school was transferred to storage, is executed. Nothing had to be done further. Okay? So in other words, when Harry conveyed his interest to Mahrenholz, that was a fee simple. But it wasn't a fee simple. Why? This is a note after this case that I just want to flag to you. And it says this: the court's determined on remand that storing supplies is a school purpose. That storing supplies is a school purpose. Therefore, the condition's not been triggered yet. And Harry still has his possibly reverter lingering, which you cannot convey inter vivos. So the school keeps the land. That's the upshot, right? The school keeps the land because the condition is not triggered. And Harry cannot convey the possibly reverter to Mahrenholz. I mean, that's the holding, which is, again, not entirely clear from the case, but I think that's how I read it. Okay, one more time. The court says this language is best viewed as a possibly reverter with a fee simple determinable. But the condition's not been triggered because storage is a school purpose. Therefore, the school keeps the land, and Harry is still floating around the ether wherever he is. He cannot convey that interest to anyone else. But I'll give you one more caveat. You can't convey a possible reverter, right? You can't convey a possible reverter. But what if you tell the school, I don't want it anymore? Can you do that? In other words, think of the bundle of sticks. I have one marked here. Okay. Right? The school has a present interest, a fee simple determinable, and Harry has a future interest. What if you combine them? It becomes a fee simple. So I think what they could have done, I think what the school is trying to do, was get Harry to basically give up his future interest. Not convey it, but just abandon it. And I think at that point, you could say the school has a fee simple. That's not in the case, but that's something you can maybe draw an inference from, right? That if Harry actually released all of his interest in the land, the school then has a full bundle of sticks, and it's a fee simple. Don't worry about that too much, but just if you want to dig a little deeper. Questions in that case?
Professor,
Yes.
somehow it doesn't work, but instead of him giving it up, can it be turned into adverse possession? If they just like use it forever, he's just okay with it?
We haven't done adverse possession, have we? No, so don't ask about it. The answer is actually really complicated. You'll do it next semester.
Okay.
The short answer is no, but don't worry about adverse possession now. Do that property too. Yes, Tim.
Out of curiosity, can you say like the third party has right of entry for life, like or for 10 to 15 years longer than?
Yeah, you can, but don't do it. Yeah, I mean, just don't get ahead of yourself, but you can do that. All right, I have a few minutes left. I want you all to turn page 310, please, in your book. There are a bunch of problems, review problems. And in a rare move, they actually give you the answers, which are in the appendix. There are a lot of them. I think most of them are a little bit too complicated. But the first four, I think, are pretty good. Okay? I think the first four are pretty good. Let's just do, I have about 5 minutes left. Let's just do number one. We'll start with number one and see how far we get. Corey, I think you're next. Want to read for me number one, please? I'll see, and her heirs. Okay, I guess the books, they change it. Good, okay.
2A and her heirs, but if Blackacre is used for any purpose other than agricultural purposes, then O has the right to re-enter and take possession of the land. What is the state of title of Blackacre?
Okay, so see where they ask the question, what is the state of title? When they're asking that, what they're really asking is, what are the present interests and what are the future interests? So, Corey, in this case, what are the present interests here? What are the present interests here?
A fee simple subject to conditions
Who has that interest? Be precise. Who has that? You're right, but who has that interest? A. A has the present interest. A's present interest is called a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. Corey, how do you know that's a present interest?
Because it's 2A and arrears.
Good. But if.
But if they use it for
Yeah.
different purposes.
The entire word turns on this but if, and that makes it a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. Carson, what's the future interest in this case?
The right to entry.
Who has that right of entry?
It would be O.
That's correct, right? And make it precise. It's not just right of entry. It's right of entry blank. Thank you, sir. Yes. O has the right of entry in fee simple. And how do you know O has the right of entry in fee simple?
Well, O conveys it and then it says but if in the condition subsequent pairs.
That's what I'm looking for, the pairing. Yeah, unfortunately, that's your answer, right? You know when you know the present interest is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, the future interest is a right of entry. That's what you have to remember. And here it's right of entry in fee simple. Okay? Do me a favor, after class on your own, try and do at least questions 2, 3, and 4. And the answer's in the back, so if you have difficulty, come talk to me about it, but try and do those. Let me summarize. Tim, then I'll summarize up. Yeah.
Because you have to explicitly state the right of entry.
Yes.
Would you ever give us the buzzwords from the other one?
There are no buzzwords for the other one. Yeah.
The buzzwords for
There are none.
subsequent.
No, there are. Let me use this question to segue to my summary. When you have a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, I'm almost always going to say right of entry. I might phrase it differently. I might say he has a right to re-enter, or he can re-enter and exercise his right, but there's going to be something about entry. And that's a buzzword, a tell that your present interest is a fee simple subject condition subsequent, right? However, when you have the fee simple determinable, there are no buzzwords. You just have a period. It doesn't say what happens to O afterwards. And the reason why is you don't have to. It's automatic. You don't need that buzzword. Okay? So again, your pairings that I want you to take home with you from today is the fee simple determinable matches up with the possible. The fee simple subject condition subsequent matches with the right of entry, and the fee simple subject and executory interest matches up with the executory interest. And you have to go forwards and backwards, left and right. Okay? And if you don't, this table is in the notes, so if you didn't get all the things, you can fill it in later. But you should keep this table in your notes, and we'll expand upon it next class and the class after that. And eventually I'll say don't use the table anymore. But it's helpful for now. Questions? Yes, sir. No class next Thursday. That's right. If you're complaining, I'm sorry, but there's no class next Thursday. I won't be here. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Marcos.
Can we add only to any of the...
Guys, just hang tight. Let me finish this question. Then you can pack up. I'm not done yet. Yeah, go on.
Can we take only as either a durational or conditional word?
Only is a weird one. I wouldn't add it to your list. All right, everyone. I'll see you guys later. I'll be in my office if you need me.